Good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder and this is BRN AM for Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. And our top stories today is this, the death of the movie theater, and virtual lessons learned from the NFL draft. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Daniel Klein, Senior Technology and Consumer Products Reporter with The Motley Fool. Hi, Dan, how are you?
I'm good. Not the strongest voice at the moment, but doing okay.
Well, you are doing a Herculean effort, you and your colleagues at The Motley Fool, in terms of live broadcasting. We appreciate having you on the program as always. So Dan, we're now talking about opening things up here in the United States, and I suspect in other places in the world things might be opening up as well. One area that I'm very interested to get your opinion about is cinemas, theaters, AMC, other movie theaters where people typically go to see The Rise of Skywalker and other movies. Do you see this happening over time?
So we had too many movie theaters. That's definitely a problem. and and we're going to see some of them close because Rise of Skywalker you want to see in a theater. It has been proven that Trolls World Tour you don't need to see in a theater. Mm-hmm. There's actually a battle going on between AMC and Universal where Universal is saying, hey, this movie did $100 million without theaters. Let's release movies in theaters at the same time as we put them on demand. Ooh, that, of course, undercuts theaters. It's great for the movie company because they make all the money instead of paying a cut to the theater. But it basically signals the end of theaters. So I don't expect that to happen.
Now, Dan, I haven't been to a movie theater in a long time. We often talk about streaming. It seems like during this pandemic, many Americans have been streaming a lot of Netflix and other products, Hulu, et cetera. And that seems to be more the norm. And I got to tell you, when I go to the theater, I don't want to be around anyone who's sick. And I don't want to have someone chewing in my ear, eating a lot of popcorn or Raisinets. But what's the impact of streaming here going to be?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of movies are just being produced by Netflix. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. They're not, maybe they'll have a 1 week theatrical run somewhere, but you don't need to see a drama in a theater. I know, I no longer have a 22-inch television. I have a 55 or a 65 or whatever it is inch television in my living room. It's a good experience to watch a movie at home. And I think that's absolutely, we don't need 18 theater complexes except at places like tourist destinations. So I know right near me, part of the reason I live where I live is because there's an AMC. It has, 14, 17, 22, I'm not sure, a lot of screens. And that space, they have to figure it out because you're going to go see Avengers. You're going to go see, Fast and the Furious 25 or whatever Fast and the Furious they're up to. You're probably not going to go see the thoughtful art house movie. So they have to redo their business. They opened a theater near me in Orlando that's only a few screens, and it's full-on dining. It's not like the terrible hot dog chicken finger model. It's actual food that you'd want to eat, and beer and drinks, and it's a good experience, and it's all digital and really well done. That, I think, is more the future. The movie industry wants there to be screens. They don't want AMC to go out of business. It wouldn't shock me if Universal or somebody stepped in and bought a theater company to protect that business. That said, that we don't need 18 screens at every mall. We need 5 or 6, I would think. So I think you're going to see this industry thin out. I think you might see some growth in IMAX taking over screens, maybe an increase in screens being used for other events, the way you could see out-of-market sporting events or UFC pay-per-views or things like that on screens, concerts. I think you might see more of that, especially as we head into, let's assume there can be concerts next year. We're going to be very venue constrained. There's only so many stadiums and so many arenas, and they're going to be playing NFL, NBA, NHL, all these different sports, plus concerts. You might see certain bands that would have done 50 shows do 20 shows, but do some broadcasts of them simply because they can't book arenas. If you're the Rolling Stones, you can sell out a stadium on Tuesday night. If you're Matchbox 20, you probably have to play on a Friday or a Saturday night to get a crowd. So, there's definitely going to be some new use of technology. And if theaters are smart, they could play into that.
But, part of going, when I was a kid, I saw the first Star Wars in a movie theater. And that was a really moving experience. Now, we also saw Annie a long time ago. not the theater. I did see the theater one in Baltimore, but we also saw Annie the movie. And look, that wasn't a really moving experience, even though I loved Albert Finney as Daddy Warbucks. So, I think Americans like going to the movie theater. But that being said, there is a lot of content being pushed out from the movie theaters, the movie companies, and a lot of it isn't that great. And am I going to think twice before going into a movie theater again, with all this going on, or even post all this going on, but also people chewing like I said, I don't want to expose myself to either of those things.
Yeah, I love going to the movies, but I do it less often. I was first in line to see Star Wars. I saw it, opening night, bought my tickets a month in advance. And I can't remember if I've been to the movies since then. There were things coming out that I would have gone to see most likely. But again, I moved so I could be walking distance to a movie theater, and my movie visitation has decreased. I see the blockbusters. I'll see a movie if I'm traveling somewhere and need something to do, but there's so much content available at home. Mm-hmm. Look, I would have gone to see the Mandalorian episodes every week in a theater if that was an option. It felt like a theatrical experience. I've always felt like, why aren't they putting out like cheap movies, like a 2-hour Law and Order episode that's just in theaters for 2 weeks? Like, people would go see that. I feel like there's stuff they could be doing in the movies, but do I need to see like the latest romantic comedy? No, like my TV's good enough for that. My TV's probably not good enough to have a really good experience watching Avengers or Star Wars or really fast, super furious or whatever is coming out there, or James Bond's endlessly being chased down a ski slope and and all the other craziness that happens there. There are reasons to go to the theater, but Trolls World Tour is not one of them. If you want to see that movie, your goal is to entertain your kids for 2 hours. It is not that you need the full Troll experience on the big screen.
Well, a lot of businesses are changing, and it looks like the movie business is definitely going to continue that change. Dan, I want to hold you over. When we come back, we're going to talk to Dan about the virtual NFL drafts. Definitely some lessons learned there, so stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
The windows on our homes, they protect us and the ones we love, but they do much more. At Renewal by Andersen, making your home more comfortable is at the center of every window we make. It's why we custom build our windows in America and install them in as little as 1 day. It's why we build our frames with exclusive FIBREX composite material that's 2 times stronger than vinyl. It's why our glass helps keep your home warmer in winter, cooler in summer, and quieter all year long. It's why we stand behind every window with a 20-year limited warranty. Why not help lower your energy costs while giving your home and family the best? Call 1-800-835-6525 to schedule a free in-home consultation. Buy one, get one at 40% off with this special offer. Plus, get special financing with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 1 full year. Renewal by Andersen, the better way to a better window. Call 1-800-835-6525 now.
Welcome back. We're talking to Daniel Klein, Senior Technology and Consumer Products Reporter with The Motley Fool. Dan, thanks so much for sticking around with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you are kind of captive. I mean, you can't go outside, and you're either in your workspace or your home space. So we kind of got you, but we appreciate you. See you sipping some water, trying to lubricate the old palate because you're doing a lot of TV. So Dan, 55 million or more Americans tuned into the NFL, the first virtual NFL draft. And by all accounts, it was a complete and resounding success.
Yeah, the NFL draft is really popular anyway, but the sports world had nothing to talk about for the month leading up to the draft. So basically, if you were watching ESPN or FS1 or any sports radio, they were talking about who, Denver might take with their 6th round pick and pretending we're aware of some like outside linebacker from East-West Texas State South University. There was undue drama around this. There were also, it was a pretty good quarterback class, and quarterbacks tend to get people interested. The whole, how healthy is Tua Tagovailoa was really a story. But honestly, what was the competition? The competition was the news networks with basically the same news about what's going on. We all know what's going on. None of us have left our houses except maybe to come to a bleak workspace. So we're all aware. We don't really need to watch that. What's there, that show on Fox where like people dress up and you have to guess who the singer is, and it always turns out to be like somebody like Kato, somebody incredibly unfamous, or
Kato. Are you talking about Kato Kalin?
Yeah, or like, oh good, it's Herb, the guy who never had a Whopper. This is the competition. Now there are still obviously new shows playing out. I would think that there are some shows that maybe didn't get the audience they deserve. Like I'll give a Brooklyn Nine-Nine a good example, a very funny comedy that gets very middling ratings. I think there might be some people who watch an episode because there's nothing else new on and go, oh wait, this is great, I'll go back and watch it. That kind of happened with 30 Rock when it went into syndication. I could see that happening for some better programming, but the NFL draft was on against essentially nothing, and it gave us a respite. It felt normal. As ridiculous as it looked, it was fun to watch Bill Belichick's dog make a pick and to see, Cliff Kingsbury, that he lives in the house from Scarface. Like it gave you a little window into people who tend to be robots. So that was kind of, humanizing. And I'll answer the next question. Do I expect this is going to change the NFL? I think a lot of old white guys now know how to use Zoom, so they might fly less places, but do I think it materially changes anything? No. Next year there will be draft rooms. They will all be around a pizza, huddled in a room. And I say a pizza, I mean a dozen pizzas, making the picks. The players will be all in a room together, sweating it out. This was an interesting test. This is not the new normal.
Yeah, I tend to think overall the quality. And I go back to watching a lot of these telecasts and these news telecasts with people from home. I mean, the quality isn't there. And so when you kind of have a window into people's houses, that's great. But I agree with you. I think that if we could go back to where we were in terms of the draft, in terms of communicating and the news with the higher quality, we would do that in a heartbeat because, it just looked grainy. The audio wasn't very good. The backgrounds were all over the place.
Yeah, the NFL did a good job in that they dispatched IT people to set up the space. It amazes me that ESPN, and I like Get Up, the morning show on ESPN, their correspondents are all coming in, and some of them are well lit, and some of them are not. I have a $30 ring light in front of me. It's not perfect. It reflects off my glasses sometimes, but at least I'm lit. I don't understand how. I've watched performers, and as the sun starts to set, they get darker and darker and darker. This is not particularly difficult. Amazon sells lighting kits for $60 that you can buy and set up. So the NFL did a pretty good job there. What they can't control, and what I do think you'll see fixed, is whatever internet these coaches had into their house, that was their internet. I think you're going to see more teams paying for dedicated lines and ISDN, and I don't even know what the technology is anymore. I know that I've been recommending to all of my colleagues to get a mesh wireless router. I have an Eero router at home. It's an Amazon product, and it's 2 little hubs, plugs into my existing router, and it just creates, it's about 10 times faster, and it's maybe 3 or 4 times faster than running a cable all the way to my router and plugging it in. That kind of stuff is going to become something regular people think about. If you're at a work meeting and your Zoom is glitchy and there's a $60, $100, $200 solution for that, more companies are going to pay for that. So I do think we're learning some lessons about how we communicate. A grainy call is fine if it's something you do twice a year with grandma. It's not great if it becomes sort of something that's part of your work culture. It's something that's part of our work culture before this at Motley Fool.
Yeah, but I wouldn't pay to ESPN Plus or a subscriber-based service to get grainy content and bad audio. It just doesn't, I guess, doesn't work for me. Dan, one thing that we talked about, I think it was last week, about 5G and how that is going to speed things up. You mentioned ISDN. I think T1 lines are probably more the norm now in dedicated lines. But again, it's been a while since I've been on the IT side. But is this an area where 5G technology, having a device like one of those mobile hotspots or using your own phone that's 5G could really benefit here and help with the mobile communication, the technology, et cetera?
Yes and no. It's going to help you when you're reporting from a war zone or a hurricane or someplace where you previously had to bring a truck where bad video is acceptable because of the situation. So yeah, if you get an NFL reporter who's in Tua's home, with his family, and the video is bad because it's literally just a producer holding up an iPhone on a 5G network, that's going to be possible in a much better way than it was. You've seen when the local news before all of this has like someone on like me via Skype, how bad it looks even with a good connection. That's acceptable when it's like a hurricane or some other situation where it's not plausible. So we're going to get video in ways we weren't getting video previously, and that's going to in real time, and that's going to be really cool. But it isn't going to be great video, but video where you didn't have it versus just the person's face and talking is going to be an improvement. I don't think it's going to be a viable option for like what we're doing right now. Now it would be, let's say we've done this show with me on a cruise ship. And cruise ships, when they're parked, Miami, I probably will be able to get a 5G connection 6 months from now. That's probably way better than the, let's call it 2G connection you're paying for on the ship, where we've had trouble doing video at all. We've had to do audio shows. So it's one of those things where I do think it will open some stuff up. And if it truly eventually blankets the globe with some of the satellite technology that's out there with SpaceX, and that won't be 5G, I might be able to do more shows from the Bahamas, which will be delightful for me, but not necessarily a great experience for viewers.
Yeah, I think this is just another example, like we talked about in the first segment, where businesses will change and things will improve and adapt. Dan, always a pleasure talking with you. Thanks so much for making time on the program. We look forward to having you back on the program very soon. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest or someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, and more, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
But if you're tired of the same old stuff.
Attention! The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has officially authorized new benefits that Medicare Advantage plans may include. To get the benefits you deserve, you can call the Medicare Coverage Helpline.
Hi, I'm Joe Namath. If you're on Medicare, this is important information. I called the Medicare Coverage Helpline and they instantly looked up my coverage. In this one simple call, they offered to enroll me in a plan that includes rides to medical appointments, private home aides, doctors and nurses' visits by telephone, and even home-delivered meals. The plan also includes dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage, all at no additional cost.
Don't delay. Call to see if the new benefits are available in your area.
Call the number on your screen now. It's free.
Call 1-800-757-1451. That's 1-800-757-1451.